Trying to conceive and feeling overwhelmed and confused with unhelpful information and advice? This podcast is for you. Welcome to Don't Tell Me to Relax. I'm your host, Hannah Pern, a fertility acupuncturist and passionate advocate for better fertility education and support. Our aim is to empower you with information to support your fertility journey and provide a community for connection with people who get where you're at. If you'd like to join us or work with us in clinic in London or across the UK, all the information is in the show notes at the end.
AcuPips sponsors Don't Tell Me to Relax. If you're looking for a way to naturally balance your body, calm your mind and relieve anxiety, then AcuPips has the answer. AcuPips is the UK's original ear seed company, founded by traditional acupuncturist Zoe Young. Ear seeds are small seeds or metal balls attached to an adhesive and placed on pressure points on the ear in specific combinations, creating balance within the body. We like to call it healing jewellery. Discover more today at acupips.com and use code RELAX for 20% off site-wide. AcuPips. Modern healing, ancient practice.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I am joined by the very lovely Katie Rowlings, who is the founder of the Fertility Action Network and the other half of Fertility Access UK. Katie's aim is to make the fertility sector a more compassionate and accessible place. She wants equal access to NHS fertility treatment and much better mental health support. Katie has first-hand experience of the fertility sector and has had 5 rounds of IVF treatment over 7 years. So, Katie, I feel like you're really well placed to be a campaigner in this world. Tell us, first of all, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us how you came to do this work?
Sure, and thank you for having me. This is so exciting. My husband and I, we ran a farm park in Sussex for many, many years. We still do. And during it was a 7-year process before we had our twins. And we had 5 rounds of IVF and literally tried everything. We did the whole shebang when it comes to fertility. We had brilliant acupuncture. We had some Chinese tea, something called the Zai Clinic. We tried everything. And over the years, there was various possible explanations for things. But for example, we had a diagnosis of an issue with my husband's sperm count, which was actually then 2 years later, another test was done and that was completely discounted, and they'd said that wasn't problematic. So it was kind of difficult, really, for us to find out what the problem was. So this was why we tried all the different things. And running a farm park was very painful for both of us, seeing a lot of women with bumps, a lot of babies coming through. Gosh, the amount of times I got handed a baby just while a mum was trying to get a buggy through the door, or, open a toilet door while she was going in. And actually, I realised in that space that there must be hundreds, if not thousands, of women and men in organisations that were struggling with this. And during my experience, we just weren't really offered anywhere to go. At the clinics, you'd get a leaflet saying, call this number if you want counselling. But I didn't know what really counselling entailed at the time. And there was no more information to say what to expect with counselling. And I think really, in a nutshell, the whole process was very painful. I didn't feel like there was anywhere to go with that pain. And I didn't relate to anything that was in front of my eyes at the time where I could say, I want to go to that person and I think they will understand me. So Tom and I just discussed for years starting a charity, and we planned at first, I think it was about 2018, we wanted to officially start the charity. And then we actually fell pregnant naturally with our 3rd child, which was completely unexpected after 7 years of infertility. And so that kind of threw the plans to the side. And eventually we got to last year and decided now's the time, let's do it. So I climbed a mountain in January last year and kind of just had this epiphany moment of, I need to get on with this. People are hurting and people are not accessing fertility treatments, and it's unfair. And there's so many places now where they're offering support of different kinds, and we wanted to create a charity platform really where we could signpost to the really good places and be able to catch people and say, don't worry, we've got you. This is where you can go. These are the great organizations that you can trust this person, and just be a safe space. I know safe space is kind of overused, but just a place to go where you know you're going to be met with compassion, kindness, and for it to be authentic and genuine as well, not just this cold clinical vibe that quite often I think charities can give off that vibe without really meaning to. We wanted to be genuine and
Mm.
authentic and just say, do you know what? We get it. We've been there. We've been in your position, and it's really flipping hard. And we want to listen to your story and we want to help you if we can. And that was really the basis of the beginning of the charity. And then that evolved really as we started pushing towards our goals for the charity, which was to basically support people to improve on the education surrounding fertility, male side and female side, and also improve on the equality and access financially so that everybody could afford to have fertility treatments if they needed it. So we'd got those sort of boundaries in place. That was what we wanted to do. And then we realized the access side of things, there wasn't a lot going on at a big level. There was nothing I could find nationally. And I happened to stumble across Amber's campaign that she'd done in Cambridgeshire. And I just sent her a message saying, Amber, I've got this crazy idea that we do this national campaign, and you've got experience in Cambridgeshire with changing your ICB, but why don't we do it for all of the postcodes? What do you think? And she came back with 100%. I've wanted to do this for ages. That's why I started what I was doing. Let's work together. So within 6 months, we'd worked together up until a couple of weeks ago, and we managed to get our foot finally into Parliament with the Fertility Access campaign,
Mm.
which was incredible. And we had such a brilliant team with us of experts. And now we're just at the beginning stages, really, where we're starting to get the ball rolling there in Parliament and within the government to potentially start an all-party parliamentary group and an umbrella for fertility, working with some other amazing people within the sector too, joining up on that. And it's looking hopeful, but it's very much in the early stages at the moment.
Yeah, and so what is the, like, if you had to say this is what we want for everybody, do you have like a minimum uh like amount of fertility treatment, or what is it that you're campaigning for, like on an equal level for everybody? Because obviously it's so different depending on where you live. So what is the kind of baseline that you'd like to see?
So the main ask that we have is an equality and access criteria. So at the moment where we have age disparity, so for in Hampshire, for example, they cut off at age 35, whereas if you come to Sussex, it can go up to 42, 43. And also there's a disparity in the number of rounds according to age. We're saying we would like a blanket. Everybody has access wherever you live to 3 cycles of
Yeah.
fertility treatment, including subsequent frozen cycles. But as well as that, we want to be looking at the breakdown of the criteria. So, for example, at the moment, the BMI is a tricky one. And although initially, when we started the campaign, we were asking to raise the BMI, we've now spoken to a lot of experts, doctors, and people within the sector who have said that might not be the optimum thing to be asking for. Actually, increasing people's health and supporting them with mental health, nutritional guidance, and giving them an actual functional resource to help them achieve the most healthy body they can be, whatever that looks like, to then go into a very healthy pregnancy might be the way forward. So the BMI was kind of a complicated one. For me, I felt it was really unfair that someone's body size should dictate. And then having heard the experts talk about it more, I understand that there can be medical ramifications for larger bodies there. But again, there's a lot of differing views there. And I think everybody's view is important to be heard. And I think we can tailor a system where we can accommodate everybody to find a solution in their unique situation. I think as well, the thing that we felt was really unfair was that if you have a partner with children from a previous relationship, no one seems to know where that came from. It kind of just came into the ICBs, and it looks like, from what I've read on the HFEA recommendations, that that didn't come from them. So for us, that was an immediate, this isn't fair. We feel this needs to be removed. Um, and I think with regards to things like AMH and age, and also when people have experienced loss or miscarriage, that then is restricting their time in access for finance and fertility treatments. And again, as someone who has been through that myself, I just thought that was cruel that we're saying to women partners, you're not going to be able to access this because you've just had a miscarriage. You need to have this amount of time since before you can apply again. Now, for some of these women and men post COVID, there is obviously the backlog. There was a backlog anyway. This is then potentially timing them out of their fertility window, let's say. So they then won't be able to have access at all. And I just think it's not okay, the system that we currently have in place. We need to be speeding up referrals for patients. We need to be taking seriously the fact that it's a time affected issue, infertility. You can't just say, well, give it 2 years and then come back and this is what we're going to assess. For some people, their age or their AMH or their current, where they're at in their bodies, they don't have that time. And
Mm.
that needs to be taken so much more seriously. And we need to make sure that the bodies and organisations that are making these decisions are fully informed of that risk that they're taking. And I think, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with this, but I think with the fertility replacement rate in constant decline in our country, I think the last it was read was 1.46. It's now gone down slightly more with that. There's a real issue here. This is a big problem, and it's going to have ramifications in our future. If you look at in 50 years, the drop in male fertility, it has been significant. Just in 50 years, they're saying a 50% drop. If we look at 50 years from now, we are not going to have the supportive structure for our economy and for the workforce if we are not replenishing and we're not focusing on our fertility. And in the media at the moment, it's just not they're not talking about fertility here, and it could have a significant impact on the fertility replacement rate if we were to really look at resolving this issue with access to treatment.
Mm.
So sorry, that was a very long answer, wasn't it?
No, no, it's a really good answer. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because anything you do see in the press is often blaming women for leaving it too late.
Yeah.
You just think, wow, that's so wrong on so many different levels.
And I think it's so misinformed when you
Yeah.
think about all of us that are working in this space. We're all aware that there's a 50% male factor element here. And one of the things that we're talking about in Parliament and has been a big part of our campaign is the preliminary testing for men.
Mm.
Because we know that there is a huge percentage of men that are referred to urologists or that area, and they have a physical examination which actually could have been done by the GP but wasn't. We ran a survey recently that showed GPs are simply not comfortable with doing this at all. 80% of GPs said, when we surveyed the GPs at the the Royal College of GPs, said they have no education. 80% of them had no education on male fertility testing. And I just think that's scary. So
Mm.
they're being sent to referrals for IVF clinics, and they're completely ignoring that 50% of this issue hasn't actually been looked at. Yes, they've done some blood test, some of these GPs, but they haven't had a physical examination. So they could be missing a varicocele, which we know is like 41%, I think, of male cases that are sent to urologists. That is the issue. And again, if that could be changed, we're then looking at natural fertility potentially and no cost to the NHS through these referrals. We also know that DNA fragmentation two-strand testing is something that could have ramifications on the decisions made for IVF and fertility treatment referrals. So why are we not looking at this further from a GP and primary care perspective? Because could have significant impact in patient referrals. And I think, even I always talk about I mean, I'm not a medical professional. Again, this is just what I've gleaned from the experts that I've been working with. But things like microbiome testing, I know is something that a lot of the people you work with, Hannah, that they talk about this a lot. And vaginal microbiome and seminal microbiome can have significant indicators as to whether a person has an infection. And imagine if we could look at this and just through antibiotics increase the percentage of natural fertility. I just think there's a lot of areas and a lot of paths that we need to be walking down that currently we're not. And part of our access campaign is to look at the male fertility spectrum
Mm.
and look at bridging the gap between primary care and secondary care. And instead of throwing daggers at the GPs and saying, why have they not done it? Supporting them. They want to learn. If you speak to GPs, they want to learn. They want the education and the resources, and they want to be able to help people. That's why they started in this career. And I think instead of this blame culture that we tend to have nowadays in this country, we should just be looking at how can we compassionately and kindly support the systems that we've currently got in place by working together collaboratively and trying to find some solutions for people so that actually the end result is we all end up having babies and hopefully finding happiness in this really, really flipping difficult path.
Yeah, and that is absolutely the thing that we see so often, and it's why people turn to people like us
Yeah.
because they are stuck between a GP and a fertility clinic with not much done in the middle. So a GP is doing basic tests because that's their training and that's what the pathway is, and then people finding themselves in fertility clinics but not really 100% sure why they're there. And
Yeah.
I feel like there is this whole area that is missed around education, investigation, not just looking at reproductive hormones, perhaps taking a step back and looking at somebody's whole health and lifestyle and seeing, well, what have we missed? What can be improved? What can be changed so that they're not then in an IVF clinic with no real idea why they're in an IVF clinic?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think there's enough of there's so much information for patients when they are going to an IVF clinic. I mean, I personally found it utterly overwhelming, the amount of
Mm,
information. And it's so emotional. So you're carrying the baggage of your emotions with everything that you're dealing with. And day to day, that can go up and down, and the pressures can be enormous depending on your situation. But then on top of that, you've then got to memorize all of this scientific information that quite often is just given to you on a laminated, shiny flyer in terminology that, quite frankly, none of us can digest without putting it into Chat GPT. And I think actually that's where the gap is. That's what we want to fill. And that's
mm,
where we just want to make the language accessible for people. We want to make a comfortable space where people can say, I don't understand this. Can you signpost me to an expert that can explain it?
yeah,
That's what I needed, and that's what
yeah,
wasn't there. And I think let's just try together and collaboratively, all of us within this industry, to make this process kinder and gentler on these
mm,
people, because it's too hard at the moment. It's too hard, and it's not fair. And I think the financial pressures that come with this, and the lack of access to funding, gosh, it just absolutely amplifies the pressure
mm,
on people, and they could do without it. So where we can help them, I just believe that where we can help, we should be helping. And
mm.
that's really the aims that we've got with the charity and with the campaign, to just make this process a little gentler on everybody.
And how do you go about changing, like, law and going to parliament? Like, how is it a very long process of lots of hoops to get through? Like, I can't even imagine how you start with that kind of campaign and how you carry that on to actually get change.
It's really scary, actually. I think being in Parliament and having the meeting that we had on the 22nd of this month, it was it was kind of yeah, it was a real eye opener, because you are in Parliament. You've obviously done your research. We had a lot of statistics and we had our expert panel. So we had Dr. Anand Patel speaking, Emma the embryologist came with us. We had Jonathan Ramsey, who obviously was brilliant speaking from the male perspective. Anand had actually conducted the survey and had some brilliant statistics, and also his insight on the male reproductive system, and generally the issues were brilliant because of his GP knowledge. Um, But then we also had like Laura Rose from LGBT Mummies. We had Becky Kearns from Fertility Matters at Work. So we had great representation with us speaking. And actually, they spoke brilliantly. I mean, Carol from the Agora, she is an absolute expert on how clinics work. She just knows, and she had some brilliant suggestions on why it's not working at the moment and the ways that we can take this forward in a phased approach, which Jonathan has also got some great ideas too. And I think there was a lot of questions from the MPs. They really drill you down on what they want to know, and you come away realizing that you need to do even more research. I think we thought we had a bag full of research and stats, and we just need to keep going and we need to keep looking. Um, the next step will be that we do a drop-in clinic for MPs the next time we're back in Parliament, which will be where they can just drop in, ask information, take away the resources. We had to prepare like a whole resource booklet of information. Amber did a brilliant job with that. Actually, she's a whiz with all her graphics and stuff. And we Yeah, so we created like a resource file that we gave to all of the MPs, which I'm still emailing at the moment with MPs that have missed it. But I think generally it's just garnering an interest from MPs so that they are on board with the cause, and then potentially looking at starting an all-party parliamentary group so it's across the parties where everybody can have an input from whichever party they are. And generally, we can have a bigger output really from that.
Mm.
And it's all started from my MP, Andrew Griffith, basically was the guy who said, look, Katie, I believe in this. I want to take it forward. I will support you. Tell me what you need. And Amber and I just decided where we wanted to go. And so he's been a brilliant support. And he obviously is a great source for guidance within the political landscape because we've never done this before. You know, we just thought we'd give it a whirl, see what
Yeah.
happened, and actually it's working, which is really exciting.
It must be a lot of work for you.
It is a lot of work. My husband said he's barely seen my eyes because they're down while I'm doing this. And my poor children, I'm having to make sure I actually shelve work sometimes to make sure I'm with the children because there's a kind of bitter irony there that we've done all this hard work to get there to have my beautiful babies. And actually, they're not seeing a lot of me at the moment while I'm working towards helping others with it. So I'm trying to put a lot more focus on spending time with them because it's always a juggle, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And in terms of the Fertility Action Network, in terms of patient or like fertility support, what do you offer? Because do you do like drop-ins? Did I see that you do
Yeah,
drop-ins?
so because we're not a registered charity yet, we've applied. Our application has actually gone through a couple of weeks ago now. So we should I think it's 30 days is their turnaround. So we're just waiting to hear to see if we are officially registered yet. But as soon as we are, we can obviously do more. We can then start applying for grants. We can look at our partnerships that we're working with, and we can do a lot more work. But for now, we just do a Tuesday night support group at 7:30, which is a Zoom drop-in, which is very busy actually now. We have a lot of people that come along, and we have a WhatsApp group as well, so everyone supports each other between the groups. And oh my goodness, Hannah, they are the most lovely humans you will ever meet. And we
Mm,
continually get feedback that people have been to other support groups and they have found that it wasn't quite right for them. And we also say to the people within our groups, you know, if this isn't the one for you, we've got a few we can recommend that you can go and try because sometimes it's just not your gang and that's
mm.
fine.
Yeah,
Um, but they are just such kind people, and the group is so respectful to each other's different situations. And we do it for an hour basically every Tuesday, 7:30. We send an email out. They can click on the link and join in. Some people join with their camera off to start with, and then as they get more confident, they join in. But it's been brilliant. It's been really eye-opening. And I personally find it lovely because I didn't have that space
mm,
so to see others connecting and supporting each other and then going off and having a cup of tea on another date together and chatting in the WhatsApp is really refreshing. And it's such a simple, small thing, but
mm.
it can make such a difference, I think, in people's lives.
Yeah. So anyone can drop. So do you facilitate that? Do you
Yeah.
coordinate that? So
Yes.
anyone can sign up and come to that?
Absolutely anyone can come along, and we're starting to split out the groups because it's getting quite busy. We're going to add some more groups. As soon as we've got charity registration, we're going to add some more support groups there. But it's myself and Grace, who is the not so, her handle is the not so fertile psychologist.
Yeah.
And so she sits in just in case anyone's having difficulty and they want to speak to her afterwards. If it's been traumatic or triggering, then she's there as well to also gauge and navigate the room to make sure that we're doing things in the best way we can for people.
Yeah, and in terms of the campaigning with the from the political side, people I know lots of people will be listening to this thinking, "What can I do? Like, how do I get involved?" Is there anything that people can do to help support that campaign at this stage? Is there like, can we write to MPs?
Yeah.
Like, how can we get involved?
There's actually going to be a number of ways for people to get involved. Right now, it's writing to your MP and getting them involved and aware of the Fertility Access campaign. There's a letter template on the Fertility Access website which you can download. That was for our initial meeting, but every time we have a meeting, we will update that template, and anyone that can download that and send that to their MP. The reason it's helpful is most MPs, sorry if I'm teaching people to suck eggs here, but I didn't know this when I
No,
started. Most MPs will only respond to constituents within their area. So if we can get enough people to write to their individual MPs and keep going and saying, this is an issue, fertility access is an issue, you need to be looking at it. These people are there in Parliament for you to go and speak to and learn about it. The more people that push them our way, the more MPs we get on board. The more MPs we get on board, the more likely we can get something into Parliament for debate. Separately to that as well, we have a petition which we're just waiting for it to go through. It was sent off actually before New Year, but they've got a massive backlog by the sounds of it. I think they opened petitions again in October or November, so they've had an influx.
mm,
So we're waiting for that to go live. But as soon as our petition goes live, we need to get over 100,000 signatures on the petition. And then it's pretty much guaranteed, it's not always guaranteed, sadly, that they will then push that through so that it will be debated in Parliament too. So I'd say those two things massively, but also just engaging with what we're doing on social media. The more people engage, the more people see it, and the bigger reach we can have from a support point of view.
yeah,
And any opportunities like this is brilliant because we get to speak about what we're doing and we get heard by more people, and the more people hear, the more people can help.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's very much a team thing, and we're going to need all the help we can get with this. I can tell you that now.
Well, I will definitely I can put all those details on the end of this show, on the
Thank you.
notes. And I can obviously link your account on Instagram and everything that we've talked about. Because again, it's like just getting the information out there, isn't it? And making the resources accessible so people can easily find them and get involved. So I will list all of that on there. Well, how positive do you feel about it when you think about the future and given the way that the world is at the moment with funding and
I think it's difficult. I think
yeah,
you probably saw the Wes Streeting decision to drop the planned support for female units. Um, I think, yeah, it's really tricky. It's a really tricky one. And I think everybody is fighting for NHS funds. But I do think our proposal is we are also showing a solution there potentially of reducing the number
yes,
of couples going through. So at the same, although we are asking for more access, we're also showing quite a simple actually solution, which could be entered with a phased approach into GP surgeries, which, you know, we've got it there. Jonathan has devised this great suggestion, which along with Carol and Anand and Emma and all of us, we feel that there is a great solution here from a
yeah,
primary care perspective and male fertility, which could be phased in. We could look at the statistics with a select group of GP surgeries, monitor it, let's say, for a year. And if the number of male referrals goes down and the number of natural fertility reports within men goes up, it will then support this to be able to be rolled out nationally. So I feel hopeful. I think it's a long game. I
mm,
know for a fact that I will never stop doing this until we get some fair access. Um, and yeah, I think it's gonna, I think it's a long game. I
yeah.
think we need to work hard, and I'm under no illusion that it's going to be easy. But I think it's one of the most important things I've ever felt that I want to work towards, and I know that Amber feels the same. Um, and I think, it's simply been unfair for too long. When we look at same-sex couples access, we aren't particularly focusing on that in our campaign because Laura Rose is doing a brilliant job with her fertility justice campaign. So we're working with her with that. Single people, they're being completely disregarded at the moment. They're not even being considered in a lot of the paperwork that we've seen from NICE guidelines. It's just not okay, and we have all just let it roll along for a long time. And I think the more we start talking about it, the more we realise that actually lots of people are passionate about this inequality. There are lots of people in this sector who feel that there's an injustice here. So together, there's an army, and I think we can really make change. And yeah, I'm feeling really positive and hopeful about it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to hear because I think sometimes people can feel after they've been through a fertility journey that they've got no fight left in them at the
Yeah,
end of it.
yeah.
We see that in clinic all the time. No fight to go back to doctors or clinics or whatever because people are just done. So it is amazing that you've been through what you've been through and you've come out the other side fighting and saying, I'm not going to rest until this is done. It's an amazing strength that you have.
Thank you. I have to say, Hannah, I wouldn't have had it without therapy.
Yeah,
I had a year of therapy after a PTSD diagnosis, and I think I would recommend if anyone can afford to have therapy of any sort. It's unbelievable how it can improve your mental strength and resilience.
yeah.
And I wasn't really a believer in any of it because I'd never done it. I probably poo-pooed it a little bit and thought, no, I don't need it. I'm fine. I'm tough. I can do this. And the reality is, everybody, I think, needs it at some point, but particularly when you've been through the trauma of infertility or loss, my goodness, we know that brings up a whole different, you know, I can't think of the word. It kind of boils up these massive feelings that you may never have felt before. And I found it really hard. I found it
Mm,
really, really hard. It was so emotional and it was feelings that I'd never felt before. So I didn't know how to navigate them. And for me, the main thing was I didn't want my trauma and pain to affect my children's upbringing. So
mm,
it was a decision to I need to fix my head really with whatever has happened here, however it's broken, which I felt at the time, I felt like my body had broken through infertility and I felt like my head had broken postnatally. And I think the realization of I can't cope, I actually don't have to cope, I can go and get help through therapy. And then having the therapy and realize, oh my goodness,
mm,
this is amazing. I feel like a different person. I am strong again. I'm resilient again. And I'm starting to build confidence, which I've never had in my life. And I
mm.
think it's really incredible. And I have to say, what you do and what your teams do, it's really important. All these elements to building yourself back up again and feeling strong, they all
Mm.
have a part to play. And I think it's really important that people consider holistic treatments and they consider the therapy options because I think it's different for everyone, the different types of therapy. But for me, I had counseling and it really worked. And I just think whatever suits you, but
Yeah,
consider it.
yeah,
And if you can't
definitely.
afford it, hopefully we might be able to raise some funds and be able to help people with that in the future too.
So is that the aim with the charity status, like with the funding from that money that you raise through the charity, it will be put towards that kind of support and treatment for other people?
We absolutely hope
Yeah,
so. Yeah, the structure and the whole concept behind the charity is to be able to financially assist people with
yeah,
mental health support, hopefully with treatment grants in the future, we would absolutely love to do, and also really focus on the education and research that's going on within the fertility sector.
yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Katie, it's so lovely to speak to you. You're such an inspiration.
Oh, thanks, Hannah. So are you. Gosh, I love what you do. I love it. I've seen you from the wings when I was back there, you see,
Oh,
when I was,
really?
yeah, absolutely. I think it's the glasses, they make you memorable.
Well, I mean, obviously we are always here to help and support your work. So anything that we can ever do in terms of podcasting or in our community, we are with you. We're behind you. Shout us if you need us. We are here.
Thank you. I massively, massively appreciate that. And I know Amber does too. So thank you so, so much.
Oh, well, thank you for your time today. And as I say, I'll put all the details that we've discussed on the show so it's all there and easy to find for everybody. So thanks again, Katie.
Thanks, Hannah. See you soon.
We hope you have found this helpful. If you'd like more on fertility education, please see our Teaching to Conceive free course linked at the end of the show. You'll also find the link to join our community. For more personalised fertility support, you can work with us one-to-one in clinic and online. You can book a discovery call to find out more.